Yes. I want to thank all of you for coming this morning on very short notice. As some of you may know, I am an international lawyer who practices often in the field of human rights. And for that, I am banned in 7 or 8 countries. I have been arrested in a number of countries, including Russia, where I was defending opponents of Mr. Putin, most recently being criticized by the Ukrainian government for defending the Orthodox Church in Ukraine. But I must say that in Spain, I have had the rare honor and privilege of being denounced by the Sanchez government, which again I appreciate given the nature of the Sanchez government and the fact that they are a government that seems today to be completely outside of any norms of either democratic rule or rule of law. Spain is in a tremendous constitutional crisis. And like with their tax system, it seems to be that there is a general malaise among the population, that they somehow normalize ongoing charges of corruption against their most senior officials. I want to make something perfectly clear. What is happening in Spain is not normal. There is not one aspect of what's going on concerning Hacienda that is normal or that makes any sense or has any compliance with rule of law. This denuncia from the Hacienda, this document is an example of an organization that has no right to operate in a free and democratic society. Instead of answering simple, civil questions, they refuse and they lie. No, 75% of other OECD countries do not have a bonus plan in any way similar to Hacienda, because if they did, Hacienda would publish what that bonus system is, and they refuse. Why? Because it is notoriously corrupt. Because they refuse to pay their tax inspectors what these poor men and women should be paid. And they force them to act as predators against their fellow citizens in order to earn their daily bread. This is the height of immorality. And I am tired of receiving hourly letters and calls from poor people in Spain, not the wealthy in Spain, the poorest people in Spain, whose bank accounts are being seized, whose lives are being destroyed, whose marriages are being destroyed. And for that reason, I want to say a series of responses to this ridiculous letter. Number one, if I were a sensitive or young lawyer, I could be intimidated by this. It could stop me. It could stop me from pursuing justice against the Hacienda. In my case, it makes me want to pursue it even more. I am telling the people of Spain, stand up. Do not take crap from Hacienda. If an inspector threatens you with a crime, report the inspector, because that is wrong in a free and democratic society, and the Hacienda uses criminal charges the way kindergarten teachers use candy. It's outrageous. They criminalize everything to do with tax. They have a psychology of fraud. I'm going to tell you something. If you want to look for fraud, look at the Hacienda. They are the fraud in this system. They have every type of presumption in their benefit, to their benefit. The presumption of veracity. You take poor people who don't have their documents necessarily all put together. They get served with a 100-page request for information. And if they don't supply everything on time, the inspector is presumed right. If their tax filing is €1 less than it should be, they get a 50% or 75% penalty of all their taxes. No other country acts in such a disproportionate way. And we've checked. The North Koreans have not gotten back to me, but we've spoken to many other countries. It is ridiculous that an organization that is criticized more often than almost any other by the European courts, who are constantly being told by the European Commission to stop discriminating, to adopt the concept of proportionality. These people make it seem like they are immune from criticism, yet they operate in a democratic society. And we are not attacking Spain. I have no interest in attacking Spain. We are exposing abuses of power. It has nothing to do with the fact that this happens to be in Spain. And when a public authority fears questions, you know matters are being hidden, like the bonus. They've been ordered to disclose the bonus, but they're like a young child who's been caught after curfew. They come up with a different excuse every minute. Their latest is to say that somehow this is a group bonus. Somehow it's 1.5% of income. But we've seen the actual numbers. If their lies were true, the average inspector in Spain would be making €350,000, euros. They are lying. They won't come through with the honest answer, and the honest answer is the bonus is completely corrupt. It is a breach of their obligation to their own citizens. And this isn't some foreigner discovering this. There was something called the Granada Declaration that was established in Spain years ago, demanding reform of Hacienda. Nothing was done. It just got worse. 47 new tax rises. The amount of tax collections, double the increase in GDP. Spain does not have a tax rate. You know, people say it's 47%, it's 46%. That's complete bullshit. The actual rate is whatever the tax department can steal, whatever they can take from you, whatever phony penalty they can assess. That's what the tax rate is. As citizens of Spain, you are guaranteed legal certainty, and you are met with legal uncertainty. You are met with fear and more fear every day. I can't get law firms to work with me because they tell me that if they work with me, they and their clients will be audited. It's shameful. We're here to stop the agency simply from acting like it's above the law. The Beckham Law is a trap. That's all it is. It is a trap for foreigners, and it's what led us to being here today. Because we are telling you very honestly that Hacienda is not a victim. Hacienda produces victims. And the government has to stop when they're found with their behavior being that of an authoritarian junta. They have to stop playing the victim card. They're not the victims. Spain isn't the victims. The people of Spain are the victims. And the fact that they won't meet with us is shameful. The gentleman who was here last time as our expert and continues to act as our expert may be the world's foremost authority on tax systems. The chief director of HMRC in the UK during Tony Blair's administration. And it is with him they are refusing a meeting because of his well-documented criticism of this absolutely horrific system. And again, it isn't only foreigners. There is a movie, Hechos Probados, outlining the shameful conduct of the tax agency that led to the involuntary incarceration of their victim in a mental institution. They are still harassing that poor man every day. What I find when I speak to people in Spain is the idea that somehow this is normal. And what I want to say to everybody, outside of this not being normal, is that there is a dialectic of ignorance. People outside Spain have no knowledge of what's going on in Spain. They believe it's a free democracy. People inside Spain have no knowledge of what's going on inside Hacienda with respect to taxation because they're used to living in fear. They are living in ignorance and fear of what's going on here. And our job is simply to end the asymmetry of power and provide some remedy for the systemic violation of human rights being perpetrated by the government of Spain. This is a serious human rights violation. No letter of intimidation is going to cover or stop. We intend to go to the United Nations. We intend to complain to the United Nations concerning the conduct of Hacienda. Next week, we will be releasing a 40-page letter to the OECD. We are calling out Spain as an outlier. We are saying to the OECD that other countries should not share their tax information with Spain until it returns to the rule of law. Do I need to say more than that your general prosecutor has just been indicted for leaking tax information? Or that we are continuing to run into victims who are being audited again and again as political punishment? This is, by the way, not just PSOE. This is before PSOE. The tax agency in Spain has been habitually used as a political hammer against opponents. It has to end, because this use of a political hammer out of the tax administration further perverts the course of justice. Thank God for the judiciary of Spain, who, when they finally get a chance to look at Hacienda, more than 50, in fact, more than 60% of the time, rule in favor of the taxpayer. The problem is the taxpayer is so battered and destroyed because first, they have to come up with all the money in a manner that is not totally unique, but almost unique in Europe. Then they have to spend years before administrative tax tribunals that are nothing more than an extension of Hacienda. And the European Court has already said they're not real courts. So after that ruling, why are they continuing to function in the same way? And I'll tell you why. Because Hacienda engages in the grinding down of its subjects. They grind you down, they wear you down, they take your money, they put you through years of litigation. They notify your customers, they seize your bank account, they ruin your reputation, they publish your name in the paper. They do everything they can to destroy you before you exercise your right of appeal. So why the hell am I sitting up here and not all of you? Why aren't Spanish lawyers yelling and screaming and marching against this insanity? And I'll tell you why, because it's fear. It's exactly what keeps the Iranians sitting in their homes in the middle of all of their problems. It's fear. And you can't make light of it simply because it's money, because it isn't just money. It's marriages, it's mental health. It is enjoying the fruits of your labor. It is living in peace and security as you are guaranteed by the Constitution of Spain, as you are guaranteed, because guess what? Somebody needs to tell the Hacienda they're in Europe. They have to act proportionately. They have to act according to fundamental values. They cannot act as if they are the Stasi. The GDR is over. You cannot behave like this. So our formula to people in Spain is, we will do our work, you do yours. If you're abused by an inspector, report him to the authorities. If you believe you are in a situation where you are being unfairly treated, report the situation to us and others. Do not sit back. Do not allow your lives to be destroyed. You know, I say to you that we get these messages. You know, I'm happy to read a couple to give you an idea, if I can find some right here, of the kind of pain and trauma that's being inflicted every day by Hacienda. Just 1 second. Get a lot more emails than I can keep up with here. And let me quote, and I'm going to anonymize this because this poor person does not want me to reveal his name. I am feeling desperate. I have to say the last 7 years have been hell. I have been resident in Spain and self-employed as a joiner since 2002. But over the last 7 years have been investigated 4 times, in total paying over 40,000 euros extra. I have consulted my family over your offer to speak to the press, and all have declined the offer and are living in fear of more investigations. I really support you and your ex-account and the company fighting the action. But unfortunately, thanks to Hacienda, we have been dragged to near divorce and suicidal thoughts and are at the end. I get this every day. This is the human toll of the arrogance of Hacienda. And it simply has to stop. We cannot function and operate alone. The people of Spain must stand up to this oppression. And they must wake up to the fact that they truly live in a free and democratic society. And as a result, no one is allowed to engage in the kinds of conduct we're seeing today and through not only, as I said, this is not about the Beckham Law alone, but about the practices of Hacienda concerning its own citizens. And I mean, we can talk more about specific cases, but I would sooner open it up if anybody has any questions. I realize I've gone on for almost half an hour, so if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes?
Thanks. So I would like to know more details about this letter you're going to send to the OECD. Is there any, has any weights, or is it just information you are giving them? You said something about United Nations too. I don't know if I heard right.
I'm sorry?
About denouncing Hacienda to the United Nations also?
We'll be going to various human rights rapporteurs at the United Nations, absolutely.
Okay. Any plans of suing, of class actions here in Spain?
Yes.
Card. So you have Spanish lawyers?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a team of 20 to 25 lawyers working on this case in Spain, in Brussels, in Washington. We have cases presently. We're not going to discuss them because my name is not on them. And when I do this political work, I will direct the work, but I won't attach my name to it because the Hacienda has already decided that I am an enemy. In fact, that's how they describe me, so I cannot visit that on my clients. We are not in a country where I believe it is safe for my clients for me to associate myself with them on individual cases. But we have cases now going on in a number of countries. The OECD letter is it will be released next week in Spanish and in English. And it basically outlines the various violations of Spain of their international obligations under double taxation treaties. Concerning one of the things being what we call the presumption of regularity. When countries exchange tax information or sensitive information, they have obligations, not only under the GDPR, but under numerous international conventions and treaties. We argue that Spain should not be entitled to the presumption of regularity. Spain conducts their investigations in bad faith, not in good faith. The manner in which Spain denies the presumption of innocence, the manner in which they compensate their tax inspectors, the manner in which they demand full payment before appeal, the manner in which they use administrative courts that are non-independent, the manner in which they use tax investigations as a political punishment, the manner in which they use a concept called simulation. This is, as a lawyer, one of the most outrageous, sinful things you can do, which is take a piece of law which is supposed to stop fraud and actually commit fraud. Because what they do is they use simulation to attack and punish people whose financial records are too good. if you've made no mistakes and they haven't collected any money from you that way, they then argue that you're in fact a fraudster, because in their minds, that's all they see is fraud. We're not citizens, we're fraudsters. Everything in their training for years is to fight fraud. And in fighting fraud, they have lost democracy, the presumption of innocence, and rule of law. This letter is a reflection of this ideology. There is an ideology within Hacienda itself. And I want to be clear. I am the best friend of the inspectors. I believe they should be paid a very real living wage and not have to rely on incentives and bonuses so that they have to become predators to pay their families, to keep their families alive. So this letter essentially states that Spain is an outlier. And we, of course, will send a copy to Hacienda. Let them argue it in detail. They're very good at attacking me. They're very bad at answering one question or providing actual facts. This is an organization that hides in the dark.
Two more questions, if I may.
Go ahead.
So, in the director of Agencia Tributaria, in her letter, she says that she wrote a letter to you,
Yes.
but you didn't answer, or
No. We absolutely answered it. Every time they wrote, we answered, and we asked for a meeting. We've been asking for a meeting before we even issued the white paper. As gentlemen and ladies, we felt it was important to give Hacienda a chance to discuss the situation with us, but they have constantly refused.
Okay, and you said.
And by the way, she says she will not meet us.
Okay, so you said there's a connection between Pedro Sánchez's behavior with.
I can't hear you very well because I'm old and deaf. So
you said there's a connection between Sánchez's behavior with NATO in this regarding expenditure on defense and this constitutional crisis here in Spain, and this government is out of law or something like that.
right.
So, but all this has started with Pedro Sánchez's government?
Not at all. I want to be very clear. Thank you for correcting that. This did not start with the Sanchez government. This really began under PP. And we are not affiliated with any political party in Spain. I'm not affiliated with any political party on this continent. What we said is that as somebody who believes in democracy and rule of law, Spain is in a crisis. That's all. And Hacienda's behavior in any other country would be a scandal. In this country, where you haven't had a budget passed in a number of years, where your government is run through a secret cabal of parties, and where every day there's another indictment, it's less of a scandal because it almost seems to fit into this disregard for rule of law. And by the way, I've seen this, I've seen this disregard for rule of law in other countries, and it's very frightening because it's a slow and steady drop. It's very hard to turn this around. And that's why I hope, for the sake of Spain, that there's some sort of wake-up call in terms of both the Hacienda and rule of law generally. Yes?
Well, I've lived in Spain for 5 years. I've lived in Spain for 5 years, and I come from the UK. And I actually know Chris Wales from a long time ago. And I think another point worth making is that Chris has a bit of an affiliation with the socialist government. He was with Tony Blair. So his report surprised me a little bit in the sense that this is certainly not against Sanchez. This is simply stating what is happening in Spain with the
Well,
with the
Chris's
taxes.
party is associated with Sanchez.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose I have a question for you on the point you're making about, would the Spanish people stand up? Because most of the friends that I've met since being here would be sitting here nodding at more or less everything you've said, in particular the fear point. So when I've asked them, why didn't they appeal? Why don't they protest? I mean, these are business people running their small businesses, some earning lots of money, some not earning lots of money. But none of them believe they can do anything. They would just rather do the deal, pay the compromise, accept the lies of the inspector and do nothing. Have you seen that elsewhere where the people won't rise up, if you like? Because it frustrates me as an Englishman that the Spanish won't rise up, because to me it's so unfair what is happening.
Well, what normally happens is that governments in democratic countries that are abusing the rights of people come up with a foreign enemy. A foreign enemy, or in the case of the United States, a domestic enemy like immigrants, and focus everyone's attention away from what they're doing onto what other people are doing or should be doing. In this country, the ace up the sleeve of the tax department is the shaming. The very people who are the most able to attack them. I spoke to a very wealthy businessman a few days ago. He said that he had a $200,000 bill, 200,000 euro bill from Hacienda, of which his lawyer said 20,000 was even potentially relevant. But the lawyer then said, pay it, because you're too exposed. Because one of the other games now going on is, if you get into a tax problem, in Spain you have this, I saw it in the Soviet Union when I was a young lawyer 40 years ago. It's called piling on. You get into problems with one ministry and all of a sudden you have problems with other ministries. We're actually investigating a few cases involving Hacienda where this piling on appears somewhat conspiratorial, and we're investigating that. So I think that's a danger. People need and want to avoid the publicity, the shame of being a debtor, because the government pretends that every penny is going into social welfare, even though we all know where it's going. So they make you an enemy of the state. And this is something that, again, we have to work with people here to try to change the mindset. Yes? 1 second.
Hola, muchas gracias. Ha hablado de autónomos y gente humilde que...
1 second.
Yes, sorry. It's about self-employed and poor people that are... Sobre autónomos y gente que no tiene muchos
1
recursos.
second, 1 second. Hello? Try now.
Ha hablado que muchos autónomos y gente con pocos recursos no puede iniciar estas acciones ni protegerse contra Hacienda. Ustedes están haciendo...
Maybe you could come up here.
I can try in English. I can do
No,
my
no,
best.
it's fine. You shouldn't have to.
Ha hablado que ha recibido muchos mensajes de autónomos y gente con pocos recursos que está sufriendo estos abusos de Hacienda que a veces se prolongan durante 7 años. Ustedes están emprendiendo acciones legales que van contra todo el sistema, pero mientras tanto esto puede llevar años. Esta gente con pocos recursos que está destruyendo sus vidas, ¿qué puede hacer? Y la otra pregunta es, han dicho que van a ir más allá de Madrid y Barcelona a presentarse y demás. ¿Tienen pensado ir a Canarias?
So you have said that there were a lot of people that were self-employed, that they had low resources, that the tax agency, the Spanish tax agency, was abusing for more than 7 years. So you were saying that you wanted to pursue legal actions against them, but as we all know, that can take many years. So over that period, what could these people with low resources do? What should they do in the meantime? And second question would be that you have said that you would go beyond just Madrid and Barcelona. Have you thought about going to the Canary Islands?
I'd love to go to the Canary Islands. We need to organize, and our problem is that we don't have endless resources to organize all of this. And what should people in Spain do, the poor people in Spain? There's a whole list of what they should do. They should contact their European Member of Parliament. They should contact their local Member of Parliament. They should demonstrate crazy, important things. Find other people in your family and demonstrate. If you are broke and you have very little, then there's a limit to what they can do. Stand outside with a placard and say, why won't you let me feed my children? I mean, this is a socialist government. And they are attacking the poorest of the poor. Do you know that I have had people in mental hospitals write to me because their money was stolen by Hacienda while they're in an institution? I mean, it's just limitless. And the point that is missed is that this is a government at war with business. And that's critical to understand. Young business people, you may want to translate this. Oh, good. Thank you. Young business people we've met with are losing their businesses because they're being attacked by Hacienda. And why is Hacienda destroying the businesses? Because unlike in England or France, the government believes that if they destroy the business, another business will take its place. They don't understand that that's not necessarily the case. And they bankrupt companies left, right, and center. Why? Because of the bonus scheme. The bonus scheme involves eating today and forgetting tomorrow. I'll tell you exactly what this reminds me of. I was in a trial in Moscow in 2004, a very famous trial in Russia. And the stock market in Moscow had crashed by 50%. And I said to a very old Russian lawyer, why would the government continue this case? It's not in Russia's interest. And he hit me over the head, literally, and said, are you that stupid? Don't you understand? It's what they can steal today, not what they can build tomorrow. That's the mentality of Hacienda. What can they grab today? They don't give a goddamn about Spain's tomorrow. And I can say that about everything I see in Spain when it comes to the government. It's all about today. It's not about tomorrow. And that's why they are destroying businesses. Every day they are destroying the hopes and dreams of the Spanish people. And that's why I'm so fucking angry, and I'm here again and again and again. And this letter just means I'll be here more until people wake up, because Spain is not the democracy it pretends to be. And just because you've got the millions of tourists doesn't mean that should be your only industry. Another reason I'm here is, another reason we've sent this letter, who is the #1 user of artificial intelligence in Spain? Hacienda. In 2 years, you will be living in Orwell's 1984 if you don't stop them now. They will know when you get up in the morning what you spend on your coffee, what you spend on your dinner, how your VAT is working and correlating with all of your income. Every day they'll be demanding reports from you. It's going to be an insane future, not only for Spain, but for the rest of Europe, if we don't get these exchanges of information under control. This is a serious issue about all of our futures. Anything else?
Gracias. Sí, buenos días. Mientras estábamos en esta rueda de prensa, los inspectores de Hacienda del Estado han mandado un comunicado en el que tachan de decir mentiras, informaciones falsas, insultar a la Agencia Tributaria, respaldan la carta de ayer de Soledad Fernández y dicen que está aquí porque quiere obtener fama y una publicidad que de otra forma nunca lograría. No sé qué opinión tiene al respecto. Gracias.
So while we were here in this press conference, the inspectors at the tax agency have released communication that says that everything that is being said is lies, it's fake information, it's insults against the Spanish tax agency, and they are backing Soledad Fernandez's letter. So what they say is that what you want and what your firm wants is fame and publicity that you will not get in any other way.
Look, I understand why they're upset, and I suggest they take a chill pill, because this is getting out of hand. If I wanted fame and publicity at my age, after my 3 divorces, I would tell you I would need a hole in my head. I have no interest in fame. In 2013, I won the World Prize for pro bono advocacy from American Lawyer. It's all the fame I needed as a lawyer. I presently represent the Congo against Apple. That's been a fairly high-profile case. We represent the Ukrainian Orthodox Church against Zelensky. It's been a fairly high-profile case. We've been on any number of medias for any number of these cases. We're not here seeking fame. We're here seeking justice. And this is something this government doesn't understand, because they don't understand how anybody would be spending their time doing anything but looking after their own finances. That's the problem with this government. It has no ideology. It has no long-term plan. It's violating its own constitution. It has no morality. We can't keep up with the number of members of their government that are under indictment. The only member of Sanchez's family not in jail or under investigation is his dog, who I understand is seeking protection. I think they really need to stop these personal attacks and try to address the 100-page report outlined with facts and figures that we've put together. Chris Wales, forget me. Chris Wales is one of the most important tax experts in the world. Why they would not take advantage of a discussion with him rather than spend this time engaged in ad hominem attacks, I don't know. But what I can tell you is a government that behaves like a teenager is doing and continuing to do a terrible disservice to its own people. Address our questions, reform a system that the European Union, our firm, and many others say needs to be reformed, and stop the ad hominem attacks. It's an attempt, by the way, it's part and parcel of what they do. People with real fame who are in Spain know that they have to shut up because this is a country that attacks those with fame. Whether it's Lionel Messi, whether it's Shakira, whether it's footballers, when it's the manager of football clubs, this is a country, rather than celebrating fame, attacks them for their taxes, of all things. It has got to change its playbook and recognize it's in Europe, it's in a democracy, and it needs to practice rule of law. And their conduct towards us now is simply pathetic.
Hi again. Good afternoon or good morning. And I am one of those who has been attacked by Hacienda, as you already told you last times. And I just wanted to report that after 3 years of investigation about Hacienda, and finally they even didn't found something very, very important, they told me, I need to tax you. After three years working with you, I need to tax you with a minimum of an amount. They said, I cannot work like 3 years and finding nothing. I said, okay, but you are not taxing me with something that is not fair. I said, it's not my problem. I need just to tax you, and after you go to the law. Furthermore, the third person of Hacienda has just, how to say, because he was taking money from companies just to lower their income tax. So it's really, it's insane. So
Well,
it's
let me
insane.
tell you, it's insane, but their reaction to me is a demonstration of how fragile they are. And I think everyone in Spain, rather than being intimidated by their attacks on me, should recognize this is a very weak institution that knows its days as an outlaw are numbered. And I think that's very important. Any other questions? Yeah?
Just a quick combination. Sorry about that. Maybe I should. But anyway, I think we should be more specific. You know what I mean? When they say what they're saying, we are lying or whatever, we have to be very specific. I think we should make, or you should make, a report of all the specific examples about the different criteria that Hacienda apply that they shouldn't. But we prove they are stealing from us. You know what I mean? I have 3 or 4 examples.
So look, we've come up with a 100-page report they did not answer. In September, we are coming out with what we call the Madrid Memorandum. And that memorandum is going to do exactly that. It is going to be a complete compendium of all of the detail, including our OECD complaint, including our human rights complaint. Everything will be out in the open. And once again, they will attack us. That's fine. Let them start to answer the questions. And when people go meet the inspectors, hand them a copy of our report and ask them to answer it. Don't be silent. And let's be clear, we are not opposing the inspectors. We know that they are oppressed. We are opposing the hacienda, who imposes these artificial demands on the inspectors that turns them into predators against their own brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.